All right, here with Tri Alliance Queensland head coach Mark Turner and Christian Seymour. Christian, you've got a bit of a special story. Do you want to give us a little bit of a background on it, please?
Well, basically, I used to be a pretty big bloke, weighing in at about 127 kilos. My life consisted of a lot of drinking, a lot of late nights and curries and stuff like that, just on a real sort of roundabout. I've never really done any exercise for 20 years since junior footy and the junior surf lifesaving, and I lobbed up down here a few years ago now, and here we are.
So how did you actually get involved with Tri Alliance itself?
Well, a couple of years ago I got conned into going down to old boys footy and having a bit of a crack for my first season. From there I was talking to another mate, and he'd done a couple of tries, and I thought that's something that seemed really out of reach to me, but something I'd really like to have a crack at. So I got on the USM website and I was looking around for a little enticer or a sprint distance try, something like that, and found Tri Alliance on that website.
Mark, what was your first impression when you saw Christian?
First impression was a guy that had joined our squad. He just was keen to have a go. And, right from day one, he was very keen to push himself. Really get the most out of the training sessions. And he told me some of his goals and obviously what was coming up. So we worked together about how we can get through that first race. And it was a while ago now, but he's certainly come a long way.
Christian, what advice did Mark give you ahead of that first race?
A lot, just to enjoy it, not to put too many expectations on yourself. Mainly pump your chest up as you ran past the finish line. Really, that was the first bit of advice, the first bit of advice I got, just before the race. But to enjoy it, to go out there, not put pressure on yourself, which I tend to do.
And around that first race, Mark, you became aware of Christian's backstory as such?
Yeah, I found out that Christian used to be a big guy and was carrying a lot of weight. He was up around that 130 kilo mark, and and he was sort of racing around 90. And I just thought, someone who's sort of come so far and lost so much weight and achieved so much, I think it's a story worth telling. So I admired where he'd come from, and I just thought that that should be shared with other people.
Wasn't without hurdles though, Christian. You picked up a few injuries along the way with the increased workload.
I did, mate. After the first race, obviously I was really pumped. It was a good experience. I felt really fit and thought I was pretty much well ready to go on to the next thing. When you do a small race, and it's a big deal. I see that, especially for new people coming into the squad, to get to the start line on a race like that's a big deal. And once you do that, there's a lot of release, and on to the next one. The next one wasn't such smooth sailing. Straight into it, into the run. It felt like a compass was being sort of pushed into the side of my leg, and I'd had a really bad run technique from not doing anything, and the weight had actually, and slouching and sitting, had put pressure on all of my joints and pushed my hips right out. So just from compensating, from carrying around so much weight. So I had a really bad ITB injury straight after my first race, which I carried around for probably about
4 months. Yeah, good 2 months.
Yeah.
Mark, what's your advice when people come across these sorts of hurdles?
Look, I think anything that's worth doing is always going to be setbacks, whether it's an injury or whether it's an illness or challenging time, balancing work and family and training, all that sort of stuff. I think just got to take it day by day, but we have a great support system of coaches and physios and massage therapists, and it's, I guess, tapping into that support system and getting the advice you need, and and not thinking too far ahead. But as you get a problem, work out a way to overcome it, which is what Christian did. Worked together and got through the race, overcame the injury, and now it's 130 kilos a couple of years ago to doing his first half Ironman at 80 kilos.
So you did Olympic distance triathlon as well. That was a bit of an achievement for you.
Yeah, it was. And like Mark said, I tapped into the support network. So through that injury period, Mark sort of monitored my efforts, especially at the run squads. And then we went and saw Peter Stanton over at UQ. And Pete worked with me on my run technique out on the track and with some physio. And the achievement at Harvey Bay was phenomenal. For me, I thought it was phenomenal for myself to get to that Olympic distance. To me, that was the mecca. That was the pinnacle of being of achievement, of self-achievement, I suppose.
And what about the improvement scale? You did Harvey Bay, then Noosa later that year. Improvements there?
Yeah, well, I didn't have a great run preparation into Harvey Bay, but through the winter, I had a massive winter with Mark in running, and Noosa was just one of those days. Everything just went to plan. It was good weather. Good weather for me. It was raining, so it wasn't too hot, and it just one of those days where I just felt comfortable in every leg.
Mark, on a personal note, I personally saw a lot of personal bests when I went up there and just watched Christian in that race. It's the reason I joined the squad. I've joined up hoping that you can bring the best out of other people. Is that what you try to do?
Oh, absolutely, mate. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I guess our job as coaches is to challenge people when they come to a training session. You know, you can't motivate the unmotivated. The athlete has the motivation. They come to training, and then it's our role to sort of challenge them. You know, to make them feel as though they can achieve something special. You do that in training, then come race day, hopefully, you know, the assistance that you give them will take them to that personal best. I mean, that's the buzz. That's the drug that everyone likes, you know, that personal best, that great feeling that you get when you have a good race, like Christian did at Noosa, and that's why you keep coming back.
And there's always something else, isn't there? So you've done Noosa Olympic distance, now you've mentioned you're doing Cairns half Ironman shortly. What are some of the challenges involved in training for the half Ironman and balancing other commitments?
It's a balancing act. The first thing is getting mentally right to be able to say yes, I will register for that race. So you get there first. Obviously you get there with a bit of help from Mark. You know when you're ready. You have to balance work and your family, which is another tough one. And then really you just have to do as you're told. With the training, you have to do as you're told, and if you don't do as you're told, that's when you get disappointed on race day. But if you follow those guidelines and toe the line at home, you'll be all right.
Mark, you tailor these programs to different needs for different people, obviously?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I mean, everyone's circumstances are different. You know, some shift work, some don't have kids, some don't have partners, some, you know, family commitments. So everyone's situation is different. We try and put together a plan that works for them and their situation. You know, balancing the time they do have with the, you know, with their other commitments, and make sure when they are training, they're making the most of that training time.
Yeah.
You know, they're not wasting their time. They go, okay, well, I've got an hour. How do I best use this? All right, this is what I've got to do. This is, you know, and make the most of it. I think, you know, we all lead busy lives, and if there's one thing we could all have, it'd be time. We wanted something more, but I think when people really want something, they find the time. It's not hard to find 30 minutes or an hour each day, no matter how busy you are. So, you know, I think those that really want it find the time, and you know, and they find their way to the start line, and then, you know, I guess the rewards that come with that as well.
Christian, you're a couple of weeks away from Cairns now. How's the preparation been? How's the training been? Some of the highs and the lows along the way?
Look, the training's been really good. I found that I've slotted into it quite well. I did go through a pretty big hole at the Four Peaks session. That was probably my most challenging day. I reckon, as it was to a lot of the other athletes that day. That's probably the only one that I didn't think I was going to get through, but I learned a lot on that day. That's to eat right the night before. That's a big one. And get your nutrition right. You don't tack 3 mountains with 1 bottle and then expect to come out the other end feeling really good. Which was a rookie mistake. I'm pretty sure I gave you a gobful up at the bakery. But came through it at the end of the day. But the rest of it's been fantastic. And the bunch doing this campaign, you know, you couldn't find a better bunch of people. But you know, the day you're flat, they're there to pump you up, and vice versa. It's been a really good campaign.
Mark, some words on Christian's progress along the way?
Oh, I think, you know, anything worth doing, there's always ups and downs. You know, you never have a, you know, any training campaign that doesn't come without its problems. And, you know, that day that Christian talks about where we rode the 4 mountains, you know, and, you know, I surprisingly turned up at the bakery. I don't know that he welcomed me with open arms there.
I don't think anybody welcomed you with open arms that day.
But yeah, he was in a dark place. He was in a dark place, but the main thing is he got through, and he learnt from the mistakes that was made, and that's why we do the training sessions, to give people confidence that no matter what happens, they'll get through the race. You know, and that's the primary purpose behind a lot of the way we train, is to give people confidence. So come race day, no matter what that race throws at them, whether it's a flat tyre, nutritional issues, challenging weather conditions, they can think back and, well, remember that day when I did that 4 mountains ride? I was in a hole, but I made it through.
So Christian, you're ready to go. Have you got any sort of words for anybody that's thinking of coming down and joining Tri Alliance? What would you say to them?
Oh, look, joining Tri Alliance or taking that step to anything in your life that you've always wanted to have a crack at, and you've been too frightened, I mean, for me personally, having the health issues that my wife went through, and nearly having my entire world taken away, and having myself in a place where I really didn't care about myself either. When someone takes something away from you, there's a choice there that you make. You either go and grab it with two hands, or you become a victim. You know, so I chose to just grab it, and I reckon anyone out there that wants to have a crack, you should come down. It's supportive, and it's set up. The pace is set up for beginners as well as elite athletes here. So you should be able to fit in quite nicely and have a crack.
And looking into the future, you're doing Cairns Half Ironman. You'd probably like to do an Ironman in the future. Is there anything else you'd like to do involved in the sport?
Eventually, I'd like to do a little bit of coach training and maybe work with some of the beginner athletes, some that might have a similar sort of story to me, a bit heavy, or a bit of those mental challenges that they battle with that I might be able to mentor them with. Yeah, but that's down the track. I'd like to do an Ironman first.
Mark, anything else to add?
Oh, look, I just think Christian's story is one worth telling. 130 kilos on a one-way trip to the grave. You know, his wife wasn't well. You know, a lot of people in this situation, they take the easy road and they give up. Whereas Christian, made a really brave decision to say, well, this is just not good enough. You know, and to lose that amount of weight and to come as far as he's come, the last couple of years, for us it's been a privilege to be part of it. And I just think, his experiences are worth sharing with the greater triathlon community. It's something to be proud of, and I have no doubt that in a couple of weeks he'll do a great job, get through the race well, and then think, all right, what's next? Maybe it's Ironman, maybe it's another half, but it's just great to see him come so far.
All right, Christian, thanks for sharing our story. Do you guys want to hug it out at all, or is that's it?
Good on you, mate. Thanks for everything.